Well, who's ready to go to camp? It's showtime, folks. Friday the 13th, 2009. A movie that Jason purists may not enjoy, but I'm gonna say I like. Now, don't come at me, okay? I am also not the biggest Friday the 13th fan, but since it is the Halloween season, I figured it was time to talk about one of the bigger slashers, and that is Jason Voorhees. And in Friday the 13th, 2009, you have a unique approach to the character. Now, with some of my movie reviews, you guys know I kind of give pros, cons. Because it's a fun season, I'm not really gonna tear this movie down. I'm just gonna talk about things I like about it. Now, again, to Jason purists, this is probably not a great movie. And it's not a great movie altogether. On rewatch, I think I finished watching it yesterday, and it's kind of goofy, it's kind of schlocky, but it's what you come to expect from a slasher like this. This movie primarily follows Jared Padalecki trying to find his lost sister. Now, you go into this film and you're introduced to a group of people that you think are probably gonna be your protagonists. You know, a bunch of 20-somethings doing things that Jason doesn't like to see. You're doing the same things. You got your typical things. You've got your druggie, you got your horn dogs, you got your nerd, you have everybody there, and you think that you're being introduced to the people you're gonna follow. And then you just get a slasher fest of Jason just taking care of them one by one very quickly. And it's like 10 minutes until you get into the title cards of Friday the 13th. Now, I think the biggest criticism that this movie gets is that Jason is just kind of weird. There's a weird take to Jason in this film. He kidnaps a girl from the first group and he holds her hostage, which ends up being Jared Padalecki's sister. And that's what kicks off the events of this movie, of Jared Padalecki going and looking for his sister. Now, I think the biggest argument that's been made about this is that Jason wouldn't hold somebody captive, you know, be feeding her and this and that, just because she looks like his mother. I look past that and I just watch this movie for what it is. This is a slasher. Now, another thing you get a lot of heat for in this movie is how over the top of a jackass the main antagonist is. I believe his name is Troy. Yeah, just so weird, and he says stupid stuff. He's just way over the top, like, don't touch my dad's kind of rich kid stuff. He gives that over the top rich kid performance, and Jared Padalecki is just like a normal guy, like, just like, why are you being a jackass? But I digress. Now, what I like about this movie is they don't pull their punches when it comes to the kills. It's one of those slashers that you just turn on and you know all these people aren't gonna make it, and you're expecting Jared Padalecki to be the guy that's gonna be the one to save the day against this slasher. I think another pro you have in this is Derek Mears' Jason. I think he's intimidating. He's a pretty big guy. He's, no, he's not everybody's favorite iteration of Jason, but I do think in this film, he's a bigger, stockier Jason. He's quick. He's got these like survivalist kind of abilities. He uses a bow and arrow at some point, like pretty wild for Jason. I mean, that was tough enough to take down with a friggin' machete. Now he's got a bow and arrow. Oh my, don't even get me started. I think that's a pro for this movie though, is just giving Jason a different kind of push, you know. Again, before the Friday the 13th fans come after me, I am not the biggest Friday the 13th fan. I don't even, like, I always looked at Jason as just a knockoff of Mikey. Yeah, I said it, he's a knockoff, all right? And I think it's even been confirmed. They just made it because Halloween was successful, but we're not gonna get into that, all right? We're not gonna get into that. Don't come at me with it because, yeah. You also got your basic stuff in this film. This is there's a lot of nudity in this. There's, you know, horn dogs that are doing horn dog things, and Jason doesn't like that, so he takes care of that pretty quickly. But what I like about this is it's just turn off your brain horror. You know, just sit there and you watch it, and it's ridiculous. Everybody knows you're going into these horror films, and you're basically just watching to see the creative ways that Jason's gonna go about doing things. I think one of the silliest things is when Jason uses the bow and arrow and takes out this guy in a boat, and he runs the boat into somebody else, and it discombobulates her. and she's just like shocked and swims all the way across this lake. And Jason still somehow is on that side, you know, proving he teleports, because how the hell he got over there, unless she's the slowest swimmer on this planet, is beyond me. You also get Jared Padalecki. He's looking for his sister. He has a reason to be there. He does seem like the only normal person other than this, who we think is the final girl. And she's understanding and she kind of follows him around. But the other people, you know, cannon fodder. You absolutely know they're cannon fodder. And one thing I think is done exceptionally well in this movie is the complete turnaround. You think that your final girl is the girl that's rolling around with Jared Padalecki throughout the whole movie, only for her to get got at the very end of this film. Now, it's ridiculous how they stopped Jason. I'll give Friday the 13th people that. The locket and saying, Jason, you can stop now, and he just throws Jared Padalecki down and just is like, zoned for this girl. And I don't really see that happening, but I could suspend my disbelief because, like I said, this is a turn off your brain horror movie. I do think that being one of the more iconic slashers really helps this film. You know, I sat down, I enjoyed it, and as a casual Friday the 13th fan, it doesn't bother me that much, the changes that they make to the Jason character. Now, do I agree with all the changes they make to him? Probably not, but it's not as, you know, sacrilege to me that Jason does these things, you know. The way they stop him is kind of silly. Jared Padalecki should have been a goner, but he isn't. And, you know, I'm okay with the way things go. You know, with these things, you always see a reboot. I don't know if this was as bad as people make it out to be. I checked the Rotten Tomatoes before, and I think it was like at 29%. I mean, this isn't an award-winning film by any means, you know? But it's a cool, fun horror film. I mean, what do you expect from this? You know, there's been worse horror movies than this. I think it's just one of those things that people have very strong opinions about. And I'm cautiously approaching this one because I know I started with probably one of the most controversial takes on Friday the 13th, and I apologize. But I'm just a guy that likes movies, and I'm not gonna tear this movie down for being something that not everybody likes. I just say, you know what? Of the Friday the 13th movies, this is the one I'm most familiar with. It's the one I enjoyed the most, other than the original. And the original wasn't even Jason. We all know that. So, as far as Friday the 13th, 2009 goes, it is not a great movie. It's probably a 2.5 star out of 5 movie. But it's a fun movie to sit down and watch. It's quotable. Things are stupendous in this movie. We learned that some people know how to use the word stupendous, apparently. You got your horror movie tropes, you know, you have your big bad slasher, you've got your hero, and you've got your final girl. You have the formula. It sits there. You watch Jason go out there, do Jason things, and you know what? That is enough for me, all right? That is enough for me. This isn't gonna win awards. This isn't gonna do anything crazy for the genre. I think it might have killed any sequels, at least in the recent future, 2009. Now, it's been a minute now that I think about it. Probably should have, yeah, I don't know. It was part of that like reboot era of film too, where they were trying to reboot Friday the 13th. They tried to do a Nightmare on Elm Street, which we're not gonna talk about that. But, we might, the hell if I know. But it was part of that kind of weird timeline when they were trying to reboot stuff and it just didn't quite stick the landing. And I know we're due for a Friday the 13th reboot at some point, and hopefully when we get it, it's gonna be something that the fans enjoy more. There's not much else to say about this one other than it's schlocky slasher fun. It's literally sit down, watch a slasher movie. You know exactly what you're gonna get. The formula is there. There is nothing stupendous about this in any way. But, I mean, you have a cool setting in a beaten up Camp Crystal Lake. You've got a cool lead in Jared Padalecki, you know, who's, if you don't know him, he's in Supernatural, which I just barely started getting into, even though it's over. You have a good little plot twist there with the final girl. You know, you think you're following your final girl most of the movie, and then schluck, she's gone. So, you have enough there. You have enough to have a decent film. Okay, decent might be pushing it. An okay slasher. And that's enough for good old Chuco this Halloween season. But what do you guys think about Friday the 13th, 2009? Do you agree with what I'm saying? you probably disagree with what I'm saying. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know something that I may have missed on this film that just didn't hit the mark for you. Or do you agree? Is it just schlocky fun that you could turn on and just mindlessly watch? Just let me know your thoughts. I like talking about movies with everybody. I appreciate everybody's thoughts. I'm just a guy that likes film. I just like talking movies. So if you have different thoughts, leave them down below. If you're new to the channel, I'd really appreciate if you like and share this video. It really helps me continue to make these videos. Or if you want to see more of good old Chuco, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. I'm trying to work on different projects when it comes to this Halloween season. Right now, I'm working on something. Hopefully it pans out, but we'll see if we could get it going. But guys, if you're ever stuck at camp with no golden locket, always remember something my friend Mrs. Voorhees used to tell me, and that's